Okay, there you go. Perfect.
Cool.
Okay, I'm not going to worry about that. All right. Okay, so Nate, our purpose today is to reflect on your classroom observation regarding student application of the step and throw, underhand throw. We want to highlight a few areas of your strength, which there are many, and then a couple areas that we might want to look for growth and next steps.
Cool.
Okay? So with Danielson, and I don't know how much training you've had on this yet.
Not
much. Okay. So I pulled out after lesson most of the domain 3, which is instruction, and then there's different components that I thought we could talk about that would lend well to just kind of my notes there.
Cool.
Okay. All right. So why don't you share a little bit about your the goal, your objective, and how you felt the lesson went.
Was to implement the underhand toss and making sure they were doing the proper form in a way that was more fun than just lining them up, throwing the beanbag. I thought it went pretty well. I mean, I could have done a better job at my protocols of having them put the beanbags down, because that's when they get in trouble, is when they are goofing around the beanbags. But I think I could have done a better job at that. Other than that, I think it went pretty well.
And do you feel you had standard 1, 2, and 4, physically literate individual demonstrates competency, variety of motor skills, patterns, applies knowledge of concept, principles, strategies, and tactics, absolutely, and literate individuals exhibit responsible personal and social behavior.
That is also what I want. I didn't do the greatest job at explaining the whole dot thing, because there's a couple arguments where you stepped off the dot. So I think after I realized that I didn't do the greatest job at explaining that right away, I went over it again, and I think that kind of did a little bit better.
Okay. Yep.
Worked a little bit better.
Okay. And so I have three rounds that you did. So we'll kind of walk through the round, because what you're mentioning definitely was noticed as your rounds went on. So our first round was right here. Okay. All right. So things I noticed here for partners, they were able to choose and link arms, and you didn't have anyone that wasn't happy with it, or you had to reassign. I know you had that as an accommodation if needed.
I maybe had 2 groups that I could have probably switched, because they were kind of goofing around a little bit, but I left them.
Okay.
And they did all right.
Okay. Yep. All right. And then you pulled out the example for the students to show how to do it, and you picked reinforced positives in terms of, I'm going to pick you 2. You're sitting the quietest, so reinforce what your expectations were in a very non-threatening, positive way. And then, let's see. I had a question there. Was the couple boys, do we need to get new partners? That would have been, Owen was one. Is that who you would?
Those 2 groups I probably should have broken up and maybe switching with it partners.
Okay. And then the goal was trying to get the most poly spots. Correct? Were they clear on the objective being the throw?
I could have done a better job at explaining that. I know that starting yesterday, because this was our second one, I was like, we're going to do games that involve the underhand toss, and we need to make sure that we are working on. And I could have talked about it a little bit more today, but I kind of breezed by that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think most of them got it.
Right.
There was some that I'd have to keep on reminding, like, hey, we're not just tossing these, we need to make sure we're doing the steps.
Right. Okay, perfect. So then I had, with throw and form, just watching, you had mentioned your assessment was going to be informal, just kind of you walking around and what you were noticing there. So after the first round was done, you blew the whistle, and then gave them direction as you shared the beanbags on top of the cones, and then count your poly spots. You used the countdown technique with that group, 3, 2, 1, and they seemed to respond well with that. And then you gave the directions following how to set the poly spots back. So any thoughts on how that end of that round went?
I think that went pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that it accomplished what I wanted. I mean, there was still some students that were not throwing with proper form, but just that was my goal, is to try to get as many rounds as possible,
Mhm.
was so I can get to all those students while they're doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then in round 2, just my chicken scratching, but you started to give directions.
Yep.
And you had asked, I need your eyeballs,
Yep.
because they were starting. And then you just said, I'll wait.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel effective that was, or would use again?
I started using eyeballs with kindergartners, and it's really worked. I didn't start that with 3rd grade until like maybe a week ago.
Okay.
So they're still kind of working on that.
Mhm.
I think they get the concept of it. I'll wait a lot, because I say, hey, either we're just going to sit here and not do what we need to do, and we're going to keep on waiting.
Yep.
Which for me, I think is a benefit of being in PE, because they want to do the things.
Absolutely.
Where maybe in class they're like, oh, we'll just wait her out,
Yeah.
or wait him out.
Sounds like
So I
it
think
is.
that works out pretty well.
Mhm.
A good thing I've done in the past was, at Greenwood they have a scoreboard. So when they first come in, I would put how much time we have in class, so they got to actually see how much time was ticking.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that worked out pretty
Nice
well.
visual. Okay. Okay. One suggestion I would have with that is the I'll wait is powerful, as you said, and you stood there and waited.
Yep.
And I would wait even one more
More.
moment after they're quiet, just
Okay,
that one
too.
more,
Yep.
just to make sure.
Yep, they get it.
And then any fluctuation, I know your space is big, but any fluctuation with your voice of a little bit softer.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and I know with the space it's not
Yeah.
always conducive to do that, but
Yeah.
perfect. I noticed that in your second round, you did have you went back and touched on some directions again.
Yeah.
So what changes did you make?
I did the whole poly spot, because there's
Yep.
2 kids that were pretty heated about, and I admit that I didn't probably explain that the greatest. I did mention it, but you got to mention things a lot of times, and
Yeah.
so that's why I wanted to make sure the dot went first before they got the beanbag. Which it ended up, by the end last round, I'd say it was pretty good. And then just the step with the opposite foot, I would just keep on pounding that in there until they get it. Because I would say probably 95% know that they should step with the opposite foot. It's the actual application of the stepping with the opposite foot.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, as you stated earlier too, going back to what the objective is I'm going to watch you step and that will help them too, because they got excited with the play in. For sure. So then I just started watching. A couple kids kind of stood out. You were very active and watched and gave feedback. The one kiddo had the beanbag partially in.
Yep.
So that was something, and then if you notice in your third round, you did address that too.
Yep.
So that was,
and she gets very frustrated a lot in class with that stuff. So I try to make it a point to say, hey, it's just bad luck. I mean, you're doing everything right.
Right.
And then she calmed down after that.
Yep. And the one little kiddo got a little upset in terms of, I think he lost Owen might have lost it, or was partially in on that too, or on it. That was the question. He was on it, and then as soon as he stepped to get the beanbag, they took it. So you gave that application to her, the clarification on the next round with him. But talk to me a little bit about when Owen, I don't know if you can recall, went up to you. He was a little heated too.
Yep.
Do you recall that?
Yes, because he said, the hula hoop.
Yes.
He said the hula hoop moved, and he does this a lot.
Yes.
Like, he's very competitive, and any little edge he could get, he tries it.
Yep.
So I've been a little bit more, I wouldn't say standoffish, but I'm like, Owen, we're just playing this game for fun, and I've been trying to instill that into him, and so I don't want to say ignore. But when I see it happen like I did in that instance, I'm like, Owen, that's not what happened.
Yep.
So I'd do that more just with Owen. If it was another student, I'd maybe give him a little bit more.
Yep.
But with him, I think he needs it's just for fun. It's not.
Yep. You really know your kiddos. And I thought, in my opinion, and based on whatever, but just my personal opinion and in teaching, that was totally the right approach with him. You didn't give him attention to it. You just said, nope, it wasn't in. And he stood there and waited a little bit, and you didn't engage, and then he went back.
Yeah.
And he still huffed and puffed over there, but he didn't.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a very strategic ignore.
Yeah.
And good deflection for him.
And Stenson's kind of the same way, but I can't do that to him because he'll shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to give him a little bit more lenience on that.
Mm-hmm.
Where
And he was totally engaged. He was
Yeah.
the one you'd wanted
Yeah.
me to watch, and
Yeah.
he was.
yeah, he was
Nothing.
he had a good day
He
today.
did. Good. Okay, and then a couple of questions I had with Javion's sister.
Sanaya.
Okay, Sanaya. So she's interesting to me because she's competitive,
Yes, very.
but she didn't step at all any of the time.
Yeah.
So and then I noticed her partner was one of the twins, right? Moretta twins.
Oh yeah, shit, Maya.
Yep. Ran out. So she ran out before she went back.
Yep. And I saw that at the end, and
Okay.
I was like, Maya, you need to. And
Yep.
those two probably should have been separated too, but
Okay.
yeah, they're very, or she is very, or Sanaya is very competitive.
Mhm.
I mean, just like her brother.
Yeah.
But yes, that's where I think I'll go back to what I did yesterday,
Okay.
where it's less about time and it's more about getting the right form. And they had fun doing what we did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it will work out well because then it gives me a lot more time to walk around because each of them everyone's going at the same time, so I can go down the line.
Okay. And that was when you had the poly spot in the hula hoop.
Yep, and
they
then
could
partners
back
on
up.
each side, and if they
And they
had
could-
landed on the poly spot, they'd
Yep.
scoot back.
Okay. Perfect. And that would be just for more data on the form.
Yep.
You were looking
Just
for.
to
Okay.
scout out
Yep.
how everyone's going with it.
Okay.
And then I think if I do the game, if I did it with them again, which I probably could, I'd make sure that they wouldn't put the poly spots so close because that was also a thing where they didn't need to step.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
And I kind of realized that midway through,
Yep,
and I'm like,
yep.
yeah, shoot.
But you had that because when I was looking through your pre-conference, you had that in case you would move them.
Yep.
And then in the third round, you actually said, I'm going to challenge you guys a little bit, and
Yep.
then you moved some.
Yeah.
So that was a good piece for that.
And it's so funny, the dynamic of the classes, because I did this activity with my other third grade
Yeah.
group, and the group today, they put all theirs close, which they got the strategy of
I was-
closest was the best.
Yes.
Where the other group didn't figure that, but they're like, we're going to challenge each other, so we're going to put them far away.
Okay.
So they put them all far away.
Okay.
So, I mean, either way wasn't wrong.
Exactly.
I mean, this group picked up the strategic way, but the other group was, we're going to try to make it harder.
Yep.
So it's cool to see the dynamic of how
Yes.
different that works out.
Yep. And I had noticed that too, is that the amazement I had with the strategies they were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was,
Yeah.
and then even watching a couple kind of had a certain pattern they went to which spots first.
Yeah.
So it was just really intriguing.
It is very.
And what they picked up on that. So that's why I had questioned what you noticed with that. So
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, so then we're into the third round.
Yep.
And then you gave a few more directions there.
Yep.
Talked about clarifying picking up the dot first.
Yep.
So that was good. And also you made the note that you noticed from last round you must stay in, or it must stay in the
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
So that took care of those couple things that had come up earlier. And then the comment on I'm going to challenge you guys, and then you moved the things.
Yep.
So at the last round then,
Yep.
there was one row left, like when it got to one.
Yep.
So then I just looked at their feet.
Feet.
And so I tracked. So
Yep.
we had, within that amount of time, we had 5
Yep.
that stepped,
Yep.
4 that didn't step, or they kicked back. They would kick
Oh, yeah,
back for
yeah.
a little balance.
Yeah.
And then 3 that did both feet. And
Okay.
many of them did both
Both
feet
feet.
during the first 3 rounds,
Yep.
or 2 rounds a little bit.
Yep.
So,
And I think that's where I'm going to do that game tomorrow and make, because I think some of the poly spots were so close that they had a tough time
to
that they.
even step.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think that's kind of where I screwed up on that part, but, just making sure that they just do that foot, and then
Yeah.
most of their arms are good. I've seen like when we play other games that we've used underhand tosses, it's a flinging motion, so it's just like.
Yep.
They did pretty decent at the pendulum.
Yep, you had mentioned
Yeah.
that. Yep, for sure. And I thought it was kind of cool too. I was watching like Jonah, for example, because
Yep.
he was like, and his strategy, he was he was interesting to watch.
Yeah.
But he never stepped, and then you did show
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
and you redirected him on stepping, and then he couldn't make it as far.
Really?
So it was really interesting.
That is
But he kept
interesting.
going, you
Yeah.
know. But I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, I had Angelica. She's kind of a spitfire.
Yeah.
Where she's like, it's not comfortable to step with I step with the same foot. I'm like, well, yes, you do that, and it might be comfortable, but that's not the right way you do it.
Mhm.
And so it was a big process yesterday to try to
Yeah.
make her step, because she's very stubborn and she's doesn't want to do that.
So
But-
how did you get her to? What was the reasoning? I mean, what made her understand why?
So I just told her, if you step with this foot, you're gonna probably bang it off your leg, and you're not gonna get the good throw. And it's just proper to do it like this. And so we did it a couple times, and she's like, it's not comfortable. And then I was like, well, back up a little bit. And she did it, and she made it in, and then she's like, okay. And
Okay.
then I think she's still going to be a little bit stubborn on it, but I think she kind of saw that's the way you're supposed to do
Right.
it. And
Gave her some pause to think about it a
Yeah.
little bit. All right, and then the last one also, after it was over, and then you had the kids sit down.
Yep.
You did a really great job of saying, when I say go.
yeah.
And I love that because you're getting all of the directions first.
Yeah, and that's been a little struggle. I make them go back if they start going right away. And I do a lot of like, well, the boys will pick up the cones, the girls will do this. Boys go first, and then some girls start going, and then it's just, all right, let's go back, let's start this again. So it's the whole aspect of getting them used to.
Yep. The
What-
routine.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And the practice of it and the feedback with it.
Yep.
But that really is proactive.
Yeah.
That they're waiting so they know, and you can maximize your time.
Yep.
Great. Then you had whistle for line order, and then back to take them downstairs.
And I didn't use the whistle a lot, but I use it usually a lot. And when we're doing activities where we're running around, so I blow the whistle, they all sit down. And that's kind of they know
Yep.
that's what to
Something's
do.
coming.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so a couple questions then I had for you was in terms of meeting the objective, thoughts about that, and we kind of talked a little bit about that. That just, yeah,
I think if I could do it over again,
yeah,
I would definitely do maybe like 2.5 days of more what I did yesterday, where it's still a game, but it's more of like more work. I can get them to see them more, and then do this game like the third day. So then they practice using the opposite foot multiple times, and then when the speed comes into it,
yeah,
it just should come natural.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would say it wasn't not as much as I would like it to be with the goal, but I think some of the kids got it, but I think the kids that got it are usually the ones that usually always get it,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
definitely
it's-
probably slow the progress
Yeah.
up a little bit.
And I think it's great to also to reflect on. So now you went full speed.
Yeah.
Now you have kind of a better picture of, okay, who would need to back a little
Yeah.
bit and
Yeah.
then go on.
Yeah.
So perfect. Okay, so I had just a couple of the elements specific that I thought you have some very strong things going for you already. So domain 2 is about classroom environment,
Yep.
managing student behavior. So thinking about, you're very aware, and I'll give you a copy of that too to read about student behavior, aware and on the sides, and it's like they know you know.
Yep.
So they're very conducive to that. And just wanted you to go through the look fors and listens for, and where you would, how many you feel that you are doing consistently.
I think I do the standards pretty well. We haven't talked about this. I have talked about this in my older classes about fairness, about how it's not always going to be the equal for.
Correct.
And I don't know. I haven't tried it, but I just don't think they're going to get the concept of that.
Okay.
I think they're still too young to grasp the concept of that. People
Different
aren't.
needs.
Yep. And I don't know. I have done it with the middle school students, and we're still having a tough time with it. But I do need to probably do that more
Okay.
with the fairness.
And I think with this too, today's lesson could have tied into the girls not waiting till the partner came back.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk
Yeah.
about some kiddos looking for that advantage.
Yeah,
You know, so some did have an advantage.
yeah,
So just thinking about that, and they didn't pick up on it or anything because
No.
they're all so engaged
Yeah.
in their thing. But hmm
um,
I thought this was also a strength of yours for sure when you talked about the acronym. You did not engage. You gave
Yeah.
the direction, and he knew not to go further,
yeah.
and that was
Hmm.
very positive for him too.
And I mean, there was some throwing the beanbags and stuff, but there wasn't too much. I mean, my third grade groups are pretty good students. That
Right.
there's not much misbehavior, but
Right.
it's just the listening to instructions, making
Mhm.
sure we're not talking,
Hmm.
and just I mean, sometimes they get goofing around a
Yeah.
little bit too much, but that's
Sure.
third graders.
Okay.
Um,
So definitely a strength for you.
I think I need to do a little bit better at reinforcement of positive behavior.
Okay.
I do try to do that with, like having those girls be my
Mhm.
demonstrators, but I
Mhm.
think I need to make it a bigger part of how I teach is to do that, because I think that's just going to help the misbehavior, because every student's going to want a good job or like doing something special. So I think that can decrease my misbehavior and then just
Hmm.
reinforce that they're doing a good job.
Yeah, and your kiddos that are a little more competitive would,
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so then this one I wanted you to look at too, and this is communicating with students. So under instruction, so indicators there on look fors. How you feel about that?
I need to do better at the lesson purpose. I mean, I do tell them that we're doing this because
Mhm.
we're working on our underhand tossing,
Mhm.
but I need to do a better job at. I need to do it. I think I need to get one of those clip or whiteboards out of the thing and write it down so they can see it, and instead of just having me say it.
Mm-hmm.
But in my student teaching, that was one of the things that I learned that I need to be better on, is just telling the students what the goal is. And I was like that as a student. I was like, why are we doing these worksheets? I wanted to be told, I mean, what am I getting out of
Purpose
this?
for me,
And
right.
and I can't do that to my students if I didn't want that done to me,
Mhm. And I think the piece too is that in the excitement and the game atmosphere, you
Yeah.
know, really bringing it back to that.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's a
Saying
really
we're
good
doing a
visual.
game, but this is why we're doing the game.
Yes, and this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then be very specific in that feedback and the amount of feedback on that skill.
Yep. I think I do a pretty decent job at the direction part and procedures. Sometimes I do this a lot where I talk too fast, and then I don't sit back and just talk, where then that gets me in trouble because I forget things. I do that a lot.
The pause is always scary
Yeah.
because it's like you can't give,
Yeah.
but it's powerful.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
same with that
100%.
waiting after you have
Yeah.
just that extra is great. And what was so strong with you too is that you were reflecting through this whole thing, because from round 1 to 3
Mhm.
you had given directions
Yeah.
as you noticed what was coming up.
Yeah.
So now when you reteach this lesson, you'll know exactly, you're going to say you can't put the dots this close. You know,
Yeah.
you'll
Yeah.
have all of that so set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think that's kind of builds off the absence of content errors and clear explanations.
Mhm.
Just knowing that I do talk fast, knowing that about myself, I can sit back and look at, hey, maybe I did miss this. Let's blow the whistle. Let's stop this. Let's redo this and
Yep.
get back going.
Perfect.
And that's what I've kind of done more, is not letting things play out,
Yeah.
instead of just stopping it right at the point, getting the directions back in, and then
Yep.
starting over.
Okay. Good.
I think that I did a good job. I mean, like I said, the students knew that they were supposed to do step with opposite foot. They knew they were pendulum. It's just the application of
Yep.
what they were doing.
Okay. Awesome. And then the last one was, this is your professional responsibilities, communicating with parents. So we had a little conversation already about little Taylor.
Yeah.
But where do you feel you're falling there with those look fors?
I think I need to do a lot better with both aspects of misbehavior
Okay.
And of good behavior, I need to do a better job at communicating. That I've had a couple students that I should probably shoot email to parents about stuff that is happening in class, and I just haven't. So I need to do a better job at that. And then just obviously if they have good days, to shoot an email, because you don't ever know how much that could mean to someone, about like the parents or the kid, even the kid. And I think I just need to do a better job at that.
So what are some thoughts on what would make that doable or manageable or more part of your routine?
I think maybe just each day, I mean, I do have time during my lunch to be able to do that, and is maybe aim for like a couple emails out each day, and if there's something that needs to be sent out, that will go top priority, but to do that more.
Yeah. And that's a good plan, to have it scheduled in somewhere. We kind of then just get part of your routine with teaching. Okay.
I'm a big like face-to-face person. Like I'd rather talk to you than email or write or anything. So that's kind of what I need to work on.
Or just the invite, hey, at conferences, could you stop by? Even just that, and then you have that opportunity. Okay. Yep, good step with that. So we kind of are leaving with a couple things of action steps. One is maybe a visual of the standard. Also, then it would help you have that moment to refer back. You know. And then just being aware of your speaking rate and being comfortable with that pause. Awesome. And then also just getting that communication in part of your schedule for each day. And then talking about this unit overall, thinking about spending a little more time before going to the full pace with the second kind of interim piece with that. And then just more feedback on that specific skill in the game. Yeah. All right. Is there anything I can help you with to get those things started?
No, I think I just need to put it into action. I think I have the steps, and I just need to put it into action a little bit better.
And then you had mentioned at the end of this unit there'll be an assessment. Form assessment. How will that look?
I was going to do it where they first assessment would be partners. So they would do it between like one person would be testing, one person would be watching, and then I probably could use the game that I used yesterday to do my own assessment, because then everyone's doing something, everyone's going, but I can be walking around with a checklist of what they're doing.
Good. Have you ever videoed kids and had them watch, like your older kids or anything? Where was that? In Bemidji, we did that a lot because there's iPads a lot. So we did it on I forgot what the app was. It was a coaching app, so you could do it and you could slow it down, so you could go through every aspect. I think it was called Eagle Eye or something. It was pretty cool program. And they're pretty little yet, but I like the idea of them watching each other and giving feedback to each other too. Okay, cool. Awesome. So if I were to ask one of the third graders, what did you do in gym today? What would you hope that they respond?
I hope they say underhand tossing, and I hope they say opposite foot pendulum.
What do you think they would say today, if that's your hope?
Probably, or I don't know. I think most of them would say that, but I think a couple of them would say, "Oh, we try to get poly spots by throwing." I think that's yeah. I think it'd be like a hopefully 70-30 split, but I don't know.
Okay, good. All right. That sounds great. If there is anything I can do to help you get those couple things set up, let me know if you need whiteboards or if you want. I don't know if there'd be a place for like a whiteboard in the gym wall. I don't know if you would use that. We have extra. I don't know. But just let me know. But great job.
Awesome.
It is,
thank you.
and I shared that with you. Watching you, it's evident you're passionate.
Yeah.
It's evident you love what you're doing. And
I appreciate you saying that. That's awesome. I do really enjoy it. I mean, I know there's some bad days, but it's like, even the bad days, my goal is to get them moving and to enjoy moving. I'm not trying to get them to do, I mean, obviously skill stuff is very important, but just to get them to have fun.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, we're very fortunate, and I hope you stay with us a
Yeah.
while. And
Yeah. And I've noticed that me and Dave had a conversation that the kid's like, why are we doing this? I mean, there'll be a new gym teacher next year anyways. And I'm like, gosh, that's not good. But
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully, and I think what's going to help too is that curriculum
Mhm.
is
Do
going
you
to be,
like it?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I use it
Good.
a lot.
Okay.
Um,
Good.
Is that even if whenever happens we leave or whatever,
Mhm.
hopefully that same person follows the same stuff, so they're doing the same stuff, because there's a
Mhm.
lot of, and I don't want to say anything bad about anyone
No.
that's been here, but
No.
there's a lot of missing gaps that I've seen
Mhm.
with just skill stuff that
Yeah.
they haven't done.
Yep. Absolutely. And I know too. I mean, just you guys really make your wish list. I think Connie
Mhm.
is very
Yep. And we are currently
good.
I was gonna send a couple, and then all that basement flooding, and then
Yeah.
I was like, she has her hands full, and I don't
Yeah.
want to throw anything more on her.
But adding to that, because I think the one that we got, the curriculum was, what was the grade? I mean, like there's different
So-
sets, right?
so
Did
there's-
we get 2 sets?
Yeah, there's a K through third one that
Okay.
we have in our room right now,
Okay.
but there's supposed to be K through second. There's supposed to be a third through 6 one.
Okay, that
And
that ordered
I
and didn't
think-
come?
Yeah,
Okay,
or it's somewhere. Me and Dave don't know where it is.
okay. Check with Connie on that too. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Just privileged to be in
Yeah.
there.
No, it was a fun class. I like the third graders there. That's my favorite grade to teach.
Is it?
I mean, just with subbing last year, I did every single grade,
Yeah.
and third grade was by far my favorite, just because they're old enough to understand that strategic thing and playing the game, but they're young enough that they don't have the attitude
Yeah.
of.
If I could pick, I would do 4. That was
Four,
my
yeah.
favorite year to teach.
Yep.
Alrighty, sounds good. Well,
Awesome.
I will type all this up,
Cool.
get you a copy to sign, and then read through it. If there's anything I misrepresented
Cool.
or anything, let me know. And
Cool.
yeah, fabulous.
Today, 8th grade was tough. I had 9 today.
Oh,
We had 3 gone.